Anne is in queue. Anne, good evening. What's your question?
Good evening. My daughter bought a brand new, she leased a brand new car, very well-known brand, and she was told when she bought the car that it had dry flat tyres. She had a puncture. She then rang around several garages to find out where she could have the tyre repaired. They said to drive it to a garage, which she did. She was driving down a very busy road with 3 lanes, and the tyre exploded. She was then stuck with traffic driving at 50 miles an hour past her. She rang 999. 2 police cars came and rescued her and pulled her off the road. Since when, she's had appalling service from the garage. We have emailed the managing director and the CEO of the company, and we've had holding emails returned to us with very little service or very little advice. And I feel that she's bought the car and all the tyres should now be replaced, and the car should have dry flat tyres put on it.
Forgive me, Anne. What are dry flat tyres? I'm just not familiar with that term.
Dry flat tyres, apparently, the brand new tyres that you can drive, although they're flat or they have a puncture, they will still drive you 50 miles until you have the tyre replaced.
Okay. And was the car meant to come with dry flat tyres?
Yes.
And were they not dry flat tyres?
They were not. She sent the serial numbers and the pictures of tyres to several suppliers, the same garage, various garages under the same brand.
Yep.
And no one said, oh, these are not dry flat. So she got in the car, drove to the garage who had this tyre to replace. And as she was driving down this extremely busy road, the tyre just exploded.
Wow, that must be terrifying for her.
Sorry?
That must have been terrifying for her. How old is she?
She's 32.
Okay. Funnily enough, Anne, before I tell you the legal position, I actually bought a car for my 2 daughters about 2 weeks ago. And I'm not going to tell you the manufacturer, but it was a second-hand car, about 2 years old, and I bought it from a reputable garage. And within 3 days of buying it, a tyre blew out on the motorway. And it turned out that all the tyres had been overinflated. The pressure in the tyres was about 30% more than it should have been. So this is clearly, I thought it was an isolated issue. Clearly it's more common than I thought, if you and I have both suffered a very similar problem. But you're on solid ground here, Anne, or at least your daughter is. Because if the car was sold to you and described as having dry, flat tyres...
They're called dry flat, yeah.
Drive, D-R-I-V-E.
Exactly.
Okay, drive
which
flat.
allows you to drive for 50 miles.
Yep, drive flat tyres. And it didn't have drive flat tyres. Then you have a claim under the Consumer Rights Act, because everything that you buy should correspond with its description. And clearly the car did not correspond with its description because it didn't have those tyres. Therefore, you have a rock-solid claim to have those tyres replaced. All 4 of them, or 5 if there's a spare in the boot. And if the dealership won't do it, and we're talking here about the dealership you bought the car from, not the manufacturer. If the dealership won't do it, then you get 2 quotes for replacing the tyres. You do it yourself with the cheaper of the 2 quotes. You then sue them in the small claims court for what you've had to cough up to get those tyres replaced. And you will win. It's that straightforward, Anne.
Yeah, but going through the small claims court is quite complicated, isn't it? She works in the NHS. She's dealing with, major problems every day. She hasn't got time to drive the car to Cheltenham, is where she purchased it. And she's now asking them to replace the tyres in London, somewhere close to where she's able to get the car to. They've replaced the one tyre that went flat now, but they've charged her for it and said you can reclaim the money. But apart from putting her life...
From whom?
From the dealership she bought it from, not from the garage in London.
Okay.
So a dealer near London has replaced the tyre now.
Yep. I see. So again, it doesn't change my answer, I'm afraid, Anne. She can say to them, look, you replace these tyres and you come down and do it. Otherwise, if you're not willing to, I'm going to do it, because it's not reasonable to expect me to go back to Cheltenham. And if they refuse, you get it done, or she gets it done, and sue them in the small claims court. Now, I hear and I understand what you say about the small claims
That's very
court being...
time-consuming, the small claims court, isn't it?
It is. But there is no other way of doing it if they won't do the right thing and replace the tyres. It would be lovely if, sitting here in the studio, I had a magic wand I could wave and suddenly
that would be nice.
the dealership did what they were meant to do. I haven't got that magic wand. And unfortunately, the options are persuade them to do it, which it sounds like so far you've been spectacularly unsuccessful at doing. That's no criticism. Dealerships are not easy people to negotiate with. Or you bring a claim in the small claims court. It's just a choice as to what you do. Or option number 3, you don't do anything. So I'm afraid, Anne, you've got to decide.
Well, if she'd broken her contract with the car, if she'd broken her side of the contract, they would be all over her like a rash.
Yes, and they'd sue her in the small claims court.
The managing director and the CEO, and getting absolutely no response other than some holding email.
And can I ask what answer you're hoping for from me?
I was hoping that you would tell me to write to either the managing director and the CEO again and suggest them under law they would have to check. They would have to replace all these tyres.
Okay, write to the managing director and CEO again and suggest to them under law that they have to replace the tyres. Because they do. And if they don't, then you have to go to the small claims court to get them to do it.
Right. All right, then. Thank you.
All right, Anne, thank you so much for the call.